A political earthquake has just struck Britain. The Supreme Court has crushed Keir Starmer's covert operation to drag the UK back into the European Union without a single vote cast, without a shred of public debate, and without the knowledge of the British people. This wasn't just a hidden agreement, it was a betrayal unfolding in real time. And now, with the truth exposed, the nation is boiling with fury. Streets are erupting with protests. Parliament is in chaos. The very future of Labour's leadership hangs by a thread. What started as a quiet political manoeuvre has exploded into a full-blown constitutional firestorm. The secret is out. For months, perhaps even longer, Starmer's inner circle had been carefully engineering a pathway to quietly reconnect the UK with EU institutions. Not through a referendum, not with parliamentary oversight, but through hidden documents, undisclosed meetings, and backroom diplomacy designed to bypass the British people. The Supreme Court's decision, handed down just moments ago, has not only exposed this plot, it has obliterated it. In a scathing 76-page ruling, the court laid bare the blueprint of this scheme, accusing Starmer's team of systematically undermining democratic processes in an attempt to reverse Brexit from the shadows. According to the court, a series of confidential memos, classified emails, and unreleased legal drafts formed the backbone of this clandestine strategy. These documents revealed an intent to reintroduce EU regulations into British law under the guise of economic cooperation frameworks. While publicly marketed as trade enhancement deals, the court found that they carried legally binding clauses designed to slowly dissolve UK sovereignty, step by step, inch by inch. The plan was not a sudden assault, it was a creeping tide. Each stage was meticulously planned. First, mutual legal standards, then regulatory harmonisation, next, quiet readoption of EU court oversight, and finally, an administrative shift that would have made rejoining the EU not a policy decision, but a formality. The result, the UK would wake up one day indistinguishable from a member state, without a single vote cast. The public, of course, was never supposed to know. The House of Commons was never supposed to see those drafts. But thanks to a single whistleblower inside the civil service, everything changed. Portions of the hidden agreement were leaked to a group of independent legal watchdogs, who immediately filed for judicial review, triggering a furious 5-week legal battle inside the Supreme Court, one that Starmer and his allies hoped would stay out of the headlines. But today, the dam burst wide open. The ruling did more than just stop the plan. It accused Starmer's leadership of constitutional malpractice, calling the operation an intentional circumvention of parliamentary sovereignty and an egregious violation of public trust. Judges didn't mince words. They spoke of deception, secrecy, and an elitist attempt to override the will of the people. The Brexit referendum, they reminded the nation, was not a suggestion. It was a binding expression of democratic will. No government, not even one with a parliamentary majority, has the authority to silently reverse it behind closed doors. The fallout was immediate. News of the court's decision spread like wildfire. Live broadcasts were interrupted. Parliament fell into stunned silence. Protesters began to gather outside Labour HQ, the Supreme Court, and in city centres across the country. Social media lit up with rage and disbelief. Phrases like EU betrayal, constitutional coup, and democracy under attack began trending within minutes. What truly sent shockwaves across the political spectrum, however, were the names contained in the leaked documents. High-ranking Labour officials, policy advisors, and even former EU diplomats were allegedly involved. Meetings were held in private residences, hotels in Brussels, and embassy back rooms. No official records were kept. Phones were reportedly left outside rooms to avoid traceable communications. This was not careless policymaking. It was a covert operation masked as routine diplomacy. One memo addressed directly to Starmer, from a senior advisor, openly discussed strategic alignment with EU legal bodies in preparation for full reintegration. Another document referenced non-disclosable pathways to legislative compliance. These were not the words of a government respecting democracy. These were the words of a movement determined to undo the Brexit vote without the public's consent. What makes this moment even more volatile is the widespread feeling that the public has been lied to for years. Many now believe this plan was hatched long before Labour's current rise in the polls, perhaps even during the initial fallout from the Brexit referendum. While Starmer publicly stated he would honour the referendum result, his team was reportedly laying the legal and institutional groundwork for a silent return to Brussels. And now that duplicity has been laid bare, the timing couldn't be worse for Labour. With an election looming and growing dissatisfaction among the electorate, this scandal has injected pure chaos into the heart of their campaign. MPs who once supported Starmer are now scrambling to distance themselves from the mess. Constituents are demanding answers. Calls for resignation have already begun echoing through the corridors of power. Outside the Supreme Court, anger is reaching a boiling point. Protesters are waving Union Jacks, chanting "Defend Brexit," and holding signs with bold statements like "Starmer the betrayer," "No to EU tyranny," and "Britain won't be sold." The energy on the ground is raw and explosive. Many believe this isn't just a political scandal, it's a war for the soul of the nation. And while Starmer has yet to make a full public appearance, sources inside Labour say his team is in full crisis mode. Emergency meetings have been called. Damage control operations are underway. But many fear it's too late. The Supreme Court has spoken. The truth is out, and Britain is watching, angrier and more united than ever before. As the fallout continues to spread like wildfire, the sheer magnitude of the betrayal is becoming clearer with every passing hour. The documents unsealed by the Supreme Court aren't just technical papers. They're a roadmap to surrendering Britain's independence piece by piece. Legal analysts are poring over the language, and what they're finding is deeply unsettling. Clauses hidden deep in the leaked agreements commit the UK to EU regulatory frameworks, override domestic legal rulings in favour of European courts, and even propose automatic compliance mechanisms that would force future governments to align with EU policies regardless of parliamentary opposition. This isn't just a betrayal of Brexit, it's a betrayal of democracy itself. And the blame is rapidly circling Starmer's entire leadership team. Multiple senior Labour figures named in the documents are now scrambling to release vague public statements claiming ignorance or minimal involvement. But legal notes, calendar invites, and email trails are surfacing fast, showing exactly who attended the meetings, who approved the drafts, and who facilitated contact with Brussels officials. Former civil servants are now stepping forward anonymously, confirming that they were ordered to work on certain sections of these agreements without being told the full context. One high-level official described the internal atmosphere as deeply paranoid, with staff told to destroy notes and avoid electronic communication. The Supreme Court's ruling has also exposed the shocking lengths to which Starmer's inner circle was willing to go to keep this plot secret. According to legal transcripts, one document was hand-delivered via diplomatic channels and labelled as non-disclosable under national security exemptions. Another memo was hidden in a locked file inside a private EU consular office and only retrieved after a court order forced cooperation. This isn't just a political embarrassment. It's the kind of covert activity that threatens the foundation of democratic governance. But the response from the public has been anything but quiet. In London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Edinburgh, thousands of protesters have taken to the streets with anger and fury written all over their faces. Chants of "Resign, resign, Starmer," and "No EU takeover" echo through the avenues, with crowds waving signs quoting the Supreme Court ruling. These aren't just party loyalists or fringe activists. They're ordinary citizens, business owners, veterans, students, and Brexit supporters of every stripe. Many say they feel deceived, used, and silenced. Online platforms are ablaze. Twitter, Facebook, and independent news forums are flooded with videos of protests, leaked document images, and legal analysis of the court's language. Trending hashtags like #MustResign, #EUPLot exposed, and #DefendBrexit are dominating social media. Political commentators, regardless of affiliation, are calling this one of the most serious constitutional crises in modern British history. Even Labour's own grassroots supporters are beginning to crack under the weight of the scandal. Local Labour offices are being surrounded by angry crowds, and MPs are being shouted down at public events. One Labour MP had to be escorted out of a town hall meeting by police after constituents erupted in chants accusing the party of treason. Inside Parliament, a deep rift is emerging. Some Labour backbenchers are demanding an emergency leadership vote, while others are distancing themselves from Starmer entirely, claiming they were kept in the dark. But perhaps the most chilling development yet is the growing call for criminal investigations. Legal watchdogs and constitutional scholars are arguing that this level of intentional subversion, if proven, could meet the threshold for criminal misconduct in public office. Pressure is mounting on the Crown Prosecution Service to investigate whether any laws were broken during the secret drafting and proposed implementation of the EU alignment deal. The phrase "treason by policy" has even begun circulating in legal circles. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has taken swift advantage of the situation. In a statement outside Number 10, He condemned Starmer's actions as an unacceptable attempt to undo the will of the people through shadowy means and announced an urgent review of all government-level international negotiations. Sunak also revealed plans to fast-track the Sovereignty Protection Act, a sweeping piece of legislation that would make it illegal for any UK government to enter international treaties that affect domestic sovereignty without full parliamentary approval and a public referendum. The bill, still being drafted, already has overwhelming support from Conservative, Reform UK, and even some Liberal Democrat MPs. And then there's Nigel Farage. If there's one political figure who has seized this moment with unrelenting force, it's the leader of Reform UK. In a fiery speech delivered in front of Parliament, Farage thundered that Britain was days away from being sold to Brussels like cattle and vowed to hunt down every last traitor who tried to overturn Brexit. He demanded not just Starmer's resignation, but also the resignation of every MP or civil servant involved in the plot. Farage even floated the idea of calling for a Patriots referendum that would constitutionally ban any future government from pursuing EU membership without a supermajority in Parliament and a binding national vote. Reform UK's popularity is now skyrocketing. Within 48 hours of the ruling, online donations surged, membership registrations broke records, and early polling indicates a significant swing in public opinion, with nearly 30% of former Labour voters saying they're now considering shifting their support to reform. The political landscape is changing rapidly, and Starmer's silence is only making it worse. Instead of facing the cameras, Starmer released a cold, scripted video from behind a desk, barely 2 minutes long, in which he blamed miscommunication of policy intentions and insisted that the agreement was non-binding and exploratory. But the public isn't buying it. Legal experts have confirmed that the language in the documents went far beyond exploratory. In fact, several clauses had already been submitted to legal departments in Brussels for pre-approval, a clear sign that the machinery was already in motion. Now Labour is in complete freefall. Shadow ministers are resigning. Local party branches are publicly disavowing leadership. The opposition has become engulfed in internal warfare over who knew what and when. Meanwhile, public anger shows no signs of calming. Protesters are surrounding government buildings. Journalists are digging through newly leaked documents. MPs are being heckled in train stations, markets, and public events across the country. This is not just a scandal. It's a national reckoning. A betrayal has been exposed at the highest levels, and the British people are demanding justice. The Supreme Court may have halted the plan, but the damage to Labour, to public trust, and to Britain's political fabric may already be irreversible. As Britain digests the full scale of the political deception, the aftershocks are being felt far beyond Westminster. What began as a legal bombshell has now triggered a social and political upheaval that continues to intensify with every new revelation. Every hour brings more information, more leaks, more outrage. The British public, already fatigued by years of political uncertainty, now finds itself in the middle of a storm that could reshape the entire direction of the country. People aren't just angry, they feel deeply betrayed. For many, this isn't about party politics anymore. It's about a fundamental violation of trust. It's about the realisation that democratic decisions can be quietly dismantled by those who claim to represent the people. Inside Labour headquarters, the atmosphere is described as nothing short of apocalyptic. Staffers are reportedly deleting emails, shredding documents, and cancelling meetings. Sources from within the party have begun leaking details of internal chaos, senior aides screaming at one another, frantic attempts to shift blame, and multiple resignations tendered behind closed doors. Starmer's most loyal advisers are being accused of orchestrating the EU reintegration strategy while deliberately keeping most of the Parliamentary Labour Party in the dark. This has created an atmosphere of paranoia and betrayal within Labour itself. The unity that once gave Starmer the appearance of a steady leader has fractured into finger-pointing and fear. Meanwhile, intelligence is emerging that suggests this wasn't just a one-off plan. Whistleblowers now claim this was only the first phase of a much larger operation. Leaked strategy memos point toward long-term integration goals set over a 5-year horizon, including the re-entry into certain EU defence agreements, environmental accords,